My guest today, all the way from Australia, is Zac Garred. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
G'day, Ella. It's such an adjustment here, like all the way from Australia. It is. It's sort of. It feels so intimate to us, but yeah, I guess it is all the way
Well, I'm
today.
used to you just living around the corner. So
Yeah.
when did you go? When did you go back to Australia? And was that a COVID decision, or is it because of the press you're doing for Occupation Rainfall?
It's all related to the press for Occupation Rainfall. The opportunity came up for me to come down, and I figured it was a good idea to do it, and I'm glad that I did because we got to be present for the premiere last on Wednesday night, which was amazing. But yeah, I got here December 29th. I landed.
Okay.
So I landed in Sydney. I did my 2 weeks quarantine in the hotel in Sydney, which was a really interesting experience. And then I've been in Byron Bay for the last week.
What was interesting about the experience?
It was really interesting to see the combination of ensuring people's comfort and the hospitality provided to us, along with the strict biosecurity and security measures,
Right.
and how seriously they take it. It was a really interesting balancing act between hospitality, compassion, empathy, for what is a very difficult situation,
Mm.
but also a robust and a thorough biosecurity and security effort by the police, by the military, and of course by the health system. And like things like they burn our rubbish, like you leave your rubbish in the hallway, and they pick it up in full, like they're going to kidnap ET kind of hazmat
Oh, right, the full
suits, kind of.
suits. Like they don't burn it in the corridors; they take it somewhere else.
No, no, they don't have a bonfire. It's not like it's not like what's the famous thing that they do in Belfast? It's not like bonfire night, where they burn everything. No, they put them all in great big yellow bins and they seal them up, and then they take it downstairs
Wow.
and they they burn it out the front of the street.
How was the food?
It was good. I was really spoiled.
Right.
I felt like I was really spoiled. We had a menu. So they gave us like they do a menu at the hotel I stayed at. They gave us a menu in like 2 week stretches.
Okay.
So like you wake up in the morning and go, okay, Tuesday, what are we having here? All right, so we've got an omelette this morning with fruit salad, no problem. Lunch we have a nice nag nazumi Indian curry, and then for dinner we have we've got steak and vegetables. It was that kind of thing every day. Yeah, but they were really accommodating. That they said to us, look, if you want something delivered, let us know. We can arrange groceries. We can arrange exercise equipment. That they were absolutely delightful, and we had psychologists and counselors and nurses and doctors, and they called you every day, usually between like 8 and 10 a.m. just to check on you and how you're feeling. Are you all right? Do you need anything? So it was kind of like, I know obviously in America, when you speak to Americans about this, they say, oh my God, it's like Guantanamo Bay. And you're like, well, no, it's not
like
quite like
being
that
fed,
at all.
in a way.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's almost like a little holiday.
Okay.
But of course, the hardest parts were of a morning and of an evening, because of a morning you wake up and you go, oh God, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And then of an evening you go to bed and you go, I'm going to wake up and I'm still going to be here.
Yeah.
But during the day, if you an acting mate of mine, Dan, returned from Ireland and he to Sydney, and he told me what he did, and he said, look, if you stick to a schedule, if you stick to a regimen, it's a lot easier. And I did find that.
I think the whole isolation thing for me, it's been having that regimen, having some bookends in the day. For me, I start the day hiking the canyon, and so I've got the sunrise, to look forward to. That makes me go to bed early at night, and then I come back and I've got maybe some yoga or some stretching or something, and then I've got some voiceover work or some self-tape auditions to do, and so the day gets filled up, quite well. But I think if you're sitting around, or I feel for the people who've got their work and they've also got the homeschooling of their kids. Oh, yeah. Right? I think that would be like crazy. And people have gone,
I think,
gangbusters doing the sourdough bread and things like that. Like, did you do any sourdough?
No, not in the hotel room. No, I lacked a lot of the equipment.
No, but
however,
when you were back in LA,
yeah, we did. My girlfriend and I, we got really ambitious. We were trying all kinds of things. We were doing like casserole dishes and noodle dishes and stir fries, and we did whatever we could. We didn't jump on the sourdough bandwagon. I don't know why. I feel like we might have missed that boat, but we very much we were very culinarily curious, you will
Nice,
say.
nice. So let's talk about Occupation Rainfall first up, because it releases in Australia on January 28th, and as you say, you had the premiere on Wednesday. I have to be bilingual in this interview. Um,
Premiere.
um, that was on Wednesday night. I've seen a trailer for the film. It's just extraordinary. You tell me what it's all about. Explain it for our listeners slash viewers.
It is a colossal spectacle. It's very much those sort of old school 90s, 2000s summer tentpole experiences.
Mhm.
It is a relentless onslaught of entertainment, exhilaration, thrills. I was just reading one of the reviews that we had today that said it grabs you and doesn't let go, and it's a lot of fun. It's really, really fun. It has a bit of emotional pathos in it that I hadn't triggered with me, because I saw a very early cut middle of last year.
Right.
So Wednesday, when we had the premiere, the red carpet premiere here on the Gold Coast, I did not. It was the first time I'd sat in a cinema in 12 months, because as we know, everything's closed currently in LA. So to sit in the cinema and smell the popcorn and be around people and hear people laugh and gasp and undergo, like, feel the experience of this real roller coaster of a film,
Yeah.
was a delightful reacquaintance. But this is the kind of film that is genuine escapism, absolute escapism. But there is also a dramatic pathos underneath it, involving tolerance and racism.
Wow.
And things like that. And I think the fact that we're releasing around Australia Day is a little bit of a deliberate ploy from the distributors as well, because it does have the notion of an invading race of people coming over and sort of taking over what life we know.
Right.
So Luke is not heavy-handed with his politics in any way, shape, or form, but he has a wonderful way of kind of winding it in subtly, and you will feel that in the film. But
Yeah.
it is in between all these massive set pieces, all these massive actions-packed spectacles. So go to the cinema and be entertained. It's very, very enjoyable.
Where did you shoot?
Gold Coast. We shot entirely around the Gold Coast, up around Mount Tamborine and the hinterland, but it was mostly soundstage work just near Warner Brothers.
Okay. Yeah, because that must be a very different experience. Is it a lot of green screen?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was predominantly visual effects driven. It was my first experience doing probably 80% green screen versus location shooting. The very first film, which is called Occupation, is on Netflix currently. That was mostly location and a little bit of soundstage work. Whereas this one was kind of the opposite. I had so many visual effects variables in it. There was a lot of miniature work, a lot of carefully choreographed visual effects work, and a lot of personal interaction as well.
Okay.
With people, the old green socks on the head and the dots on the face.
Right.
I was asked the question.
Green socks on the head. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they're going to go rob a bank.
Like normally you're like, oh, I really like this outfit I wore. Can I take it home? And they're like, oh, no, it's green sock with dots on it. No.
Yeah, right. How captivating. Yeah, it is. How chic. Yeah, I was asked a question by a journo on Wednesday at the premiere about what it was like working with the green screens, and it just occurred to me when he asked the question that I didn't really think about it, because when we were doing it, Luke is so clear with his vision and so clear with his storyboarding and his direction. It was very easy for us just to follow it accordingly.
Yeah.
So it was not a distraction, and it wasn't one of these things where you were so focused on it being right. You were actually quite relaxed, and given we had an amazing cast around us,
yes,
we to work with, it made a big difference. It made that kind of collaboration is crucial when you've got a lot of ambiguity going on around you, which is of course visual effects work in general.
I think, you're a very experienced actor now, but I think one of the things that, if you imagine when you first started out being told that you were going to be on a film like that, I suppose I don't know, would you have done a lot more research about it, or had some fears about it that you had to address?
That's a really great question. No, I don't think I would have, because I think every film is subjective. Every experience is different. Obviously, the process to make them is generally pretty universal. But I feel as though if you get too far into reading too much, then you might get a perception of what that would be. And I think coming into any project with a preconceived notion, is not really helpful because you are working with a crew and a cast and people. I mean, I've worked with Luke previously, but if you come in sort of going, okay, well, this is what I read, and this is what I saw, therefore this is what it must be.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily helpful because it is a team approach, and you need to be able to go in there and sort of go, cool, well, this is who I am, this is what I bring. Who are you guys? Let's get stuck into this.
Yeah.
That's
Is
really,
there much
really
rehearsal
crucial.
for something like this?
What was that, mate? Sorry?
Is there much rehearsal for a film like this?
Oh, yeah, no, we had a whole period of time. With rehearsal in the first block of shooting. We had a lot of table reads and a lot of action practice. Obviously close proximity fight stuff and grips and things like that made a big difference. For returning cast, like myself and Dan Ewing and Izzy Stevens, Tim Morrison, we just reacquainted ourselves with our characters, and a lot of that work was already done in the first one.
Right.
So we just connected with the cast who joined us for this one, like Mark Cole Smith and Dave Robertson, Ken Jeong and Daniel Gillies and Jet Tranter,
right,
Vince Colosimo, and it was really great just to sort of work with them on something we'd already established.
You're very sporty spice. I mean, you've got a background of sport from when you were a child until you got an injury. Footy and cricket were your thing. So do you do a lot of your own stunts and so on, or do they bring somebody in for certain of them? Or
I do whatever they let me do. I'm happy to do it. I love doing it because it is fun. Because it's fun being physical. It's fun leaving and feeling dirty. I've got a whole sequence on that we took a whole day to shoot, which is a massive action sequence in the first 15, 20 minutes of the film. The best comparison with this film, I think, is Empire Strikes Back meets Mad Max.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good comparison, actually, with a bit of Independence Day. Yeah, so they throw everything at you, and that was a day where I got to be really physical and really into it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have nearly as demanding a schedule as Dan Ewing did, or as Jet Tranter did, and I know Jet, who's a professional fighter, who is an incredibly fit person and incredibly talented. She did a lot of her stuff herself, and of course Dan, had the absolute bejesus kicked out of him.
Nice. Hello, maker.
Yeah.
So let's go back to where it all started. Like me, you're a Novocastrian.
Yeah.
So you, as I said, you started acting when you were very young, and then you did that Australian thing that the boing boing badoing, like All Saints, Home and Away, and LA, and then you did how many episodes of General Hospital?
I was on the General Hospital for 9 months, so I think I did 60.
Okay.
60 episodes, which sounds absurd. Like when you say 60 episodes in 9 months, because any TV series in the world would love to get to 60 episodes. Yeah. But that was my run, was about 60. It was only supposed to be for 6 weeks, but they kept bringing me back for 9 months.
And you got to work in both accents as well. I just love that. You were the Aussie.
Yeah, halfway through.
You were the Aussie, and you were the American as well. Who's your dialect coach?
I was working with Taylor. I was working with a lovely young lady named Tuffet Schmeasel. Tuffet's her nickname. Yeah, Tuffet's her nickname. And she was an incredible dialogue coach, and she worked very closely with me leading up to that, and obviously multiple auditions since. But obviously I was an Australian in it, and they never really told me what their plan was. I think they like to keep things very open-ended and open-minded there, and the audience, I had a visceral reaction against me because people hated me because I was such a terribly manipulative, surreptitious kind of jerk doing these awful things to people. So, hatred is a powerful tool for writers.
Yeah. And
that they went, well, let's just twist that knife a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's what they did with me. And one day the showrunner, a guy named Frank, came up to me and said, look, how many accents can you do? And I said, well, well, what do you need? He said, well, we're thinking about all this, but can you just start on like a French one, a Scottish one, and we'll go from there. I was like, you serious? He said, yeah. Oh, okay. So I went and spoke to Tuffet. And then like 2 weeks later, went to pick up my scripts from work, and they had me revealing my big reveal. Oh, I'm not actually Australian. I'm actually American, and the other accents never occurred. But Frank, the showrunner, did tell me that they were considering at one stage me being this sort of man of many faces,
Right.
like
And why
international
not?
man of mystery.
But how
Yeah.
fabulous to have the daytime soap experience, because I mean it's rapid fire, and that you're all day on set, and then you've got so many scenes to learn for the next day, and you're in so many of them. Did you enjoy the experience? Would you do it again? What's your favorite experience? Like, do you prefer film, TV, where you've got a bit more time, or something like the daytime soap?
I love time because I love building something. I love connecting and building with things, but there is also something to be said about the thrill of working on soap and working on, in particular, General Hospital. And I think based off my mates who have been on other ones, YNR, D&D, stuff like that, DNL, stuff like that, they it's a very theatrical experience. Doing a soap opera like that is more like being on stage than it is anything else. And there is that, what I mean, there is a thrill to that live experience, and it is demanding. My first day at work, I blew in, and the cast director, Mark, who was a delightful man, had my scripts there for me and had a little bit of chat with me, and he handed me this big, thing. And I said, oh, is this the episode? He said, no, they're your scenes. I went, what? So it's like a phone book. And it was, and you go, oh, cool, I get to do lots of stuff. And so it teaches you so much. It teaches you obviously, well, it teaches or it reaffirms preparation, reflexivity, because you've got to be just on the ball all the time.
Yep.
You test your memory, test your patience, make sure that you are on the ball, always doing your work, because you very rarely get a take 3 or a take 4. Maybe they'll give you a take 2. But you are on it, dude. You are on it, and to connect into whatever you have to connect to make sure it's always there, which is what Larry Moss taught me when I was studying with him about connecting your emotions for stage and things like that. With film and TV, you generally, broadly speaking, have a little bit of luxury of time, to construct, to build, to discover, to find. Whereas with soap, you've got to be there and ready to rip.
Is it like shooting a multicam comedy where the showrunner will come down and go, okay, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different. And you're on the spot. Do you have to do that kind of stuff as well?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's upstage, downstage, stage right, stage left.
Mm-hmm.
So that they tell you, so Zac will go upstage, he'll look out the window, then he'll come back and take a drink, talk about that, so it's like that. And then if you miss your mark, the director's in a booth editing while you're performing. We'll get on the microphone and say, Zac, you just missed your mark there. Can you just go back a couple of steps? And okay, back you go.
Okay.
And then you just pick up from that spot. So I think they usually shoot with 4 cameras, but I do remember there was one sequence, this famous Nurses Ball thing, which is an annual event on General Hospital. It's a big thing, it's usually a whole week run long of episodes around this one event. And I was very fortunate to be at the Nurses Ball, which is quite an honor for characters. And I think we were shooting, and I'm not joking, we were shooting with 16 cameras at one stage. We had 36 principal cast on set, and I think 16 cameras. It was huge and amazing and fun. It was really fun because I got to meet a lot of people, because the show is so big and there's so many. Game of Thrones is a soap opera, basically, as far as like the narrative crossovers is concerned. And that's what this was like. And I'm seeing people say, who are you? So what do you do? And then you realize that there's like 6 different storylines happening and no one ever sees each other.
Yeah.
But it's really fun. It is lovely.
It's a heck of an opportunity, because there are some great actors that come over here and they don't get a bite for a long time. So, to get a bite so quickly for something like that is testament to your skill and training, right?
I was very fortunate. Yeah. I obviously worked in Australia for about nearly 10 years by the time I came down to LA.
Oh, so like an overnight success, then I get it. Yeah.
Oh, no, certainly not. And I think that's the case with a lot of people, as we know, it's like it takes years to be an overnight success, as the old. as the adage goes.
Yeah.
And so by the time I came here, I'm glad I came when I was 27, and I'm glad that I did, because I floated the idea when I was 19, 20, going over, and my agent at the time said, absolutely not. No. And I'm glad I stayed, because I got to do some great work in Australia and work with wonderful people. But then when I went over, I'd matured to a point where I was ready to take the hits and take the knockbacks and handle that, because as we know, LA can be a volatile town, and it's an amazing place, and I love it. But of course, it can be volatile, and it can be hostile to you as a creative and as a person, because it is such a big place, and you are in it. And it's not like Sydney or Melbourne, where you have your acting mates and stuff like that, and you're sort of like, there's sort of this interesting cohesive community feeling here. Over there, it's a combination of sort of artistic pursuit and business, and it is huge no matter what. And you see incredible people doing incredible work all the time, and you have great avenues to make yourself better and to continue to grow as a performer. But you've got to be busy. It does not stop. It's not the kind of place that stops and waits for you.
Yeah.
You've got to be there, and you've got to be on. And I've had a few mates who have either not enjoyed LA for whatever reason. I can understand that. And I've had others who have gone there and had experiences that were just not palatable for them compared to Australia. So it definitely is a place that you've got to be prepared for, personally and professionally.
Yeah. Let's talk about that resilience, because, is that something that came to you as a result of your upbringing with your parents, or was it part of the sport, or do you have something naturally, or did you ever think resilience or have to reshape yourself, or did you just have something in your toolbox that you used?
I think I'm a resilient person anyway, I think, in general, because I had to, I was working many jobs to get by in various periods of time in my life. And I always looked at things as being in the present, but not permanent.
Okay.
You sort of, cool, I'm here now doing this, but this is not always going to be the way. So let's keep moving ahead. So for me, I'm resilient, and I'm patient, and I can handle it, and I think sport did teach me that, because you've got to work hard, and you've got to be prepared for your opportunities, and you've got to understand that you've got to be there, and you've got to do it. You've got to do the work. You've got to put in the training, and you've got to be prepared. And that's a lesson that I think is applicable to a lot of things in life in general. I think what I learned the most, what I had to take on board was sense of self-worth, and not feeling any lesser about yourself because auditions aren't coming in, or because you didn't get a call back for that thing you felt so great about.
Speak to me. I just had one of those. I'm like,
no, totally. You
like,
go
I
in there,
nailed the audition. Like casting called my manager and went, whoa, and I thought, yay, this is so exciting. And then like,
yeah. Oh, mate. And isn't that sort of silence
right,
deafening when it occurred?
Or like, it's a film, so it could actually not shoot until next year, and then so, like, that happened to me 2 years ago, where I auditioned for something, and I honestly thought it had gone away, and it was I'll share this with you, because I'm a sharer.
Sure.
So I go in for this audition, and it's not really in type. I'm a homeless woman. And so I look like death, and I've actually not worn a bra to drive across LA, so that I'm really in this character, and I mean, I'm a busty chick, so so I'm traveling, I'm driving across in the Yaris with my tits resting on my thighs, and I've got a lumberjack jacket on, and I've got my beanie and no makeup, and some powder, and I pull up and I get in there, and I'm just really, like, I'm feeling the weight of the world. I know who this woman is. I know why she's in this situation, and I've created this backstory as to how she got there, and and this is initially going to be 3 seconds on screen, but you as you say, you do the work, right?
Yeah.
So I get in there, and 2 actors come up to me, and they're like, "Oh my God, Ella, it's so good to see you. How are you? What are you going for?" And I'm like, "Oh, whoa, 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 whoa." And then before I can get back into my self-composure, casting comes out and goes, "Okay, ready for you now, Ella James." And I'm like,
Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Anyway, so I left the audition, and I rang my manager, and I said, oh, I don't know how it went, you know. And I said also they asked me to do a lot of dialogue, and
Yeah.
you know that I wasn't, and I said I just don't know that I did. Anyway, 6 months later, I book it,
Oh wow.
right?
Yeah.
And then I'm on set, and they decide to make it something much bigger than it had previously been worked on, which is great. Um, anyway, that's enough about me. Back to you. But it's that experience of it,
No.
it's the uncertainty, and you've just got to flow with it. And I actually think it was good that those women did that, because it gives you an opportunity to do what they say, do the preparation, then let it go.
No, totally, and that's what they say is to do exactly that, and that what you described then is very much what General Hospital would be like, because you would, you'd have these 7-page scenes that you'd spend days, like a day or two, trying to get down, and then you do all the work for your character, and then you work with the other actors, and then you've got to, and of course you're going to work and things are flat out, or you're distracted by something, or something else pops up and it's in your head, and you've just got to go action, let's go.
Yep.
And I think that's a very good way to learn to associate with things, and that's why I think theatrical training is really great for actors, and doing theatre is fantastic,
Yeah.
because it teaches you that kind of stuff and teaches that kind of resilience, and also that you can occupy a space, you can present a character, and you can jump on whenever you need to.
Yeah.
You can elicit those emotions whenever you need to, and yeah, with auditions, I think in America in particular, because you can jump between 2 or 3 a day. I think I had 3 in one day at one stage. I had one in Culver City, one out at Glendale, and then like another one in West Hollywood, like at 9 a.m., midday, and 3 p.m.
And the
And you
biggest
jump.
problem with all of that is that all the traffic.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, whereas like in Sydney, like referring back to like you mentioned Newcastle, it used to be so easy when I was living here, because it was great. You take a day off, you hop on the train, you go down to Sydney. I have the 2-hour train trip to get myself into my space and do what I needed to do. And then you get there and you chill, you go and see the cast director, you do your thing, and back on the train, life's a bowl of cherries.
Yeah.
Whereas you're up at 6 a.m. just to drive 10 miles,
Right. And
to
it
get
says
to.
it's going to take you 45 minutes, but you know you'd better
Yeah.
allow an hour and 45, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, it is. It's very different. But I mean, that feeling, what was the first lot that you went on? Do you remember the first
Oh, yeah.
time you were called to a lot and you were like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. Maybe you didn't have
No,
that feeling. But I mean, I was
no,
just like,
of course I did, Ella. Of course I did. I think I think anyone who says I didn't have that feeling is lying. Because anyone
whoa.
who sort of, they get their pass for the Paramount Gate or the Universal Gate or something, you go, oh, this is real. Here we go. My first one ever was, it was the Paramount lot, and it was a job that I ended up getting for a TV show on CBS. I went there and I was so excited because I just I did my 9 months on General Hospital, and some things were around. It was really lovely. And it was this role of, I had to be a Northern Irish character. So I had to call Tough It Up, and I got my Northern Irish accent down. And I remember going through the lot and got my pass, and I was walking around, and I just you always sort of feel naughty. I did the audition, and maybe that was a good thing too, because I was so relaxed when I went to the audition. I was just like, this is cool. Let's do this. Let's have fun.
Yeah. This is.
And then you leave afterwards and you walk around, and I'm a shocker for it. I always, stay well past my welcome. But I think Americans sort of encourage that, like, yeah, this is this thing, and how cool is that, and how's this, and this is great, and they love sharing these things, and I
Yes.
think that's really endearing.
Yes.
So I wandered around for like a half hour afterwards, and got a call back the next day, and then I ended up going back and booking the job, and it was, it is pretty cool when you get to step onto those things. Like anyone who plays, at the San Siro or Anfield or Goodison, or the Emirates or Wembley, it's a similar kind of feeling, I think, when you consider just the history of these places, how long they've been there for, how a lot of these places like Raleigh, like our great mates at Australians in film have over there. You're talking about places that are literally are the conception of cinema itself.
Yeah.
So it's quite it's a very it's a very, I think, sentimental but also immersive experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you're out of your head sufficiently to appreciate what other people do for a living, instead of worrying about impressing them,
Yeah.
then it becomes, and that's acting, but that's all walks of life. When
Yes.
we approach something to impress instead of revealing our authentic selves,
Yeah.
once you get into your authenticity, then it's a game
Yeah.
changer, right?
Yeah, well, I had that experience there for a minute. I think that's a really good point where I was doing a series of auditions that were like, they're okay, but nothing spectacular because you start thinking about, well, what do they want to see?
Mm,
What do they want to see from me? Well, what can I do to get their attention? And that's not
mm,
constructive because you're trying to be something versus just being you.
mm.
And they call you in because they can see, you, whatever you are, you present something there that is the character they want to see. They don't want to see you come in and try to be, try to say, this is what I think you want to see from me. They
Yeah,
want
it's
to
like
see you.
really bad pickup lines on a date, you know.
Yeah.
From a woman's perspective, when a man comes up and gives me some
Yeah.
really cheesy lines, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, just show me who you are,
Yes, so I better call heaven. Somebody's missing an angel.
Stop it. God,
Does Charlie know you got out? Because he's only got two.
that's haven't had that one. Oh my, and of course, I have the face, so I wish I could not show what's going
Yeah.
on in here, but the internal dialogue is just there for him to see.
There's a great one which is, hey baby, let's pretend we're film. Let's hop into a dark room and see what develops.
You've never used that, have you?
No, of course
No,
not. Never in my life.
you'd be
No.
idiot, right?
Even Alison, my girlfriend, even if when I say that to her,
A
it's the
joke.
coldest. It's the coldest shake of the head. Yeah.
It's just like, stop. I know, I know.
Mm.
One of the things that I get to mentor a lot of people,
Yeah, you
um,
do. You do a great job.
as I'm thank you. Um,
Yeah.
and I like to be encouraging, but to be frank, I find that sometimes I come up against a younger person who is being incredibly arrogant and entitled, and it's
Mm.
part of the fear of maybe not quite knowing who they are yet. Like when somebody's been told, oh, you've got great potential, or you've got great skills, or you've won an award at school, or something. Like this is very the young, and I always feel very gentle with them, because I don't
Mm.
want to say, mate, stop being an asshole and just know your place, because I know it's part of that whole, just when you learn to ride a bike, the
Mm.
first thing you're doing is you're holding on to the handlebars like this. And the first pedal you make, you wobble, wobble, wobble. And the second one, you wobble, wobble, wobble. And then 3 months later or 3 weeks later, your feet are on the handlebars, your helmet's back in the driveway. You're not even thinking about it. Your body just has that naturally. Do you have some tips for some younger people, or the parents of younger people who might be watching or listening to this,
Mm.
um, to just to help them get past that stage? Because I use the bike analogy and they kind of get it, but they
Yeah.
don't quite know how to take. They've got to be confident and they've got to know who they are and they've got to believe in themselves, but they don't quite, and they don't quite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that just comes from application. Because if you're sort of just sitting back and being in your own sphere and being in your own bubble, you are going to hear what you want to hear, and that's because that's reassuring for everybody. It's extremely reassuring, but it also means that you're just living to a standard that is subjective. You're sort of going, I'm comfortable with this, and that is it.
Mm,
Art is not about comfort. Any music. I mean, look at Bob Dylan when he went from acoustic to electric. you know,
right.
Big controversy. People try different things. I think a great example is a fella I was having a beer with a couple of weeks. Oh God, no, it feels like a couple of weeks ago. It was before COVID. My goodness, it was actually at a backyard party. Craig Mazin, he did The Hangover. He did all these really funny films called The Hangover, and then he did Chernobyl on
Wow.
HBO.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yin and yang, right there. So, but he wanted to tell a story and he wanted to do something, and he wasn't tethered to ego. He wasn't tethered to reassurance. He wasn't tethered to comfort. He was tethered to, I want to do a good job. I want to do something that drives me.
Yeah.
If you think you're the duck's guts, the dog's bollocks, that kind of stuff, you very rarely find any sports person or any artist in the world who sort of proclaims themselves as the greatest ever, without laying it on the line and being clear about it. And how do they do that? By taking on challenges, by proving themselves. Now, of course, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to prove anything at all. But this is a collaborative medium. And you are going to work with actors who are always going to teach you things. You're going to work with directors who want certain things. You're going to work with producers who are trying to tell a particular kind of story. And if you don't go and apply yourself, and if you don't go and make yourself uncomfortable, and I don't mean in a nefarious way.
No.
I mean in a creative way. Like if you go take some classes where you go, oh wow, okay, this feels. I sucked. I sucked. I remember the very first class I did in LA. I was awful. And I'd been working straight for 10 years and I was just nervous, and it was a great environment, and I was just making shitty choices, like for my character, and I was just oblivious to things in the text. And you go home and it's very sobering. You go home and go, oh, okay, well, that was crap. What am I bothering this for? And what a stupid career this is. This is ridiculous. But then you go, it's absurd, mate. That's ridiculous. And you would go, great example. Richard Shaw in Jaws, when he, that famous Indianapolis monologue, and he talks about, Robert Shaw. Robert Shaw. Thank you very much. Robert Shaw, the famous Indianapolis monologue. And he did it with Spielberg. He did it. And it just wasn't working. And then the next day he just tapped Spielberg on the shoulder and said, can I just have another crack at it, please, mate? I just want to try it again. They did. And of course it's in the film and it's spectacular. Everybody does it. And to think that that everybody walks out and they're Mahershala Ali or that they're Meryl Streep. No way. Some people have raw talent, really, really good talent, but it's constructed and it's guided. Yeah. And that all comes from application. Find a school, find a teacher, work with people, understand that this is a pursuit. It's not a destination. And even when I went to the premiere on Wednesday, it was the first time in a while that I've walked out and gone, all right, what next? Versus kind of going, oh, I feel like I'm at the station, and that was a nice, even then I'm still growing and I'm still learning, I'm still changing. And we grow and change as people too. Yeah.
And we become, I think we become better people.
Yeah. When you get some perspective and understanding that you can do great things in your life and you can be a good person. And it sometimes just takes some harsh lessons to make that the reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. And anyone who looks down on you or sneers at you or derides you just because you did cop a kick in the guts, I mean, that person's clearly compensating for something within themselves.
Of course. But I mean, it takes some knowledge before we realize that firstly, nobody is really worried about what we're doing, compare despair. I used this expression last week with a director I was working with. And I said that comparing oneself to others and then despairing that we're not the same or not good, we're unique. Nobody is like me or you, or that authenticity is what somebody might want to buy or not, because not everybody is meant to be doing the same thing. Yeah. This has been wonderful. I could go on. I just love spending time with you, and it's so nice to see you, and so happy. And I wish you all the best with the opening. It's January 28th. Do you know what the release is for the US?
That's fluid at the moment because I know this film it's a cinematic film, and they do want to. I know Lionsgate want to release it on cinemas over there. Yeah. So I think they are keeping the powder dry there for a second, but I did hear rumblings of March. Okay. I know the first one was obviously on Netflix. I know Netflix would be very happy to have it, but I think Lionsgate are kind of keen to make people go see it on the big screen because it is it's genuinely a big screen experience. I think my friends who saw, because we have 250 cinemas across Australia starting next week, so that's a very wide release.
Yeah.
It seems quite minuscule in the context of the United States, but that's quite significant. And when my friends saw it on Wednesday, they walked out. Everybody sort of had the same reaction. They all went, "Whew, all right, I need a second."
Yeah.
It sort of feels like it's like the California Screaming at Disneyland. It's like, and then off you go.
I know. That's my favorite. I line up like a 10-year-old to go on that over and over and over. Oh my God, I just love it. Yeah, it's just terrific. No, what can I say? There's another side of me. I do want to laugh at that, though. I just want to get it out there. Zac Garred, I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see you back in LA. Stay safe, stay well. I was going to wear a mask just so you'd feel like you were still back here, but I just decided.
Mate, it's an adjustment. It's weird. I still do the thing even here in Byron Bay where life is really quite normal, and people take it so seriously. But like Australia does not want to lose what they have here, so they fight feverishly for it. They do all the right things, and I still walk up the street and I still do that thing where I hands in my pockets, don't touch anyone, step back against the wall if someone's passing me. Yeah. And I've had it a few times now where I've walked out and gone, "Oh, my mask." "Oh, no, it's okay. It's all good. Yeah, it's okay." Yeah.
I've got 15 of them. They're just on high rotation, but we'll get there.
We will, mate.
Okay. You take care. So lovely to see you. Love you and your girl, and have a great time in Oz.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.
Lovely chatting to you.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
You've been listening to Take Fountain with Ella James.
Available at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favourite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com.
This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.